Get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn. Check out the show notes for your promo code to get started podcasting today.
And so it's important that you, as an adult, identify who can access, what accounts and how they can access those accounts. There's also like legacy provisions and options that you can elect within, Facebook and so forth, so that you can have, certain people that basically get access immediately if something happens to you, that where they can jump in and continue to maintain those accounts. So, it's really important because, we live in a day and age now where so much of our lives are focused on social media and these other digital assets.
Welcome to the Unlocking the Club podcast, where we host honest and direct conversations about journeys of access, personal truth, and reclaiming space. We share our truth so that you can find the key to own your truth, honor your journey, and reclaim your space. Grab your keys, your wallet, your phone, and invite your friends to meet you at the club. Here's your host, Angela Taylor.
Welcome to a very, very special series of Unlocking the Club, where we explore one of the most important yet often overlooked conversations that we can have, a conversation about estate planning and elder care. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and over the past few years, my family, my friends, and we've learned the hard way about the critical importance of having a will or a trust in place. When unexpected moments arise, not having a plan can leave families vulnerable, and I've seen firsthand how it can create chaos during already challenging times. Recently, I conducted a poll, and the results were startling. 80% of the people that I polled between the ages of 20 and 65 don't have a will or a trust in place. Even more striking is that most of those who do take action, it's only after experiencing a tragic event in their family. National data suggests and supports this as well, with studies showing that a significant majority of adults, particularly between and within the Black and BIPOC communities, have not taken steps to secure their legacies. And when we fail to plan, we leave our families with legal battles, financial burdens, and emotional stress that can take years to untangle. That's why here at Unlocking the Club, we're dedicating an entire 12-part series to unlocking the essentials of estate planning, with bonus episodes focused on adjacent topics. Together with two brilliant minds, Jasmine Young from Young Law Group and Verlena Green-Tuluska from VDG Law Group, we'll break down what you need to know about protecting your assets, building a legacy, and making sure your loved ones are cared for when it matters the most. Our goal in this series is to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to take action now before life forces you to. Whether you're just starting out or navigating the complexities of caring for aging loved ones, these conversations will give you the clarity and the confidence to plan for your future. So grab your notebooks, tune in, and let's unlock this critical conversation together. Welcome to Unlocking the Club's special series on estate planning and elder care. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Unlocking Your Club and our special 12-part series on estate planning and elder care. I'm your host, Angela Taylor, and I'm really excited to get into this conversation about digital estate planning and managing your online accounts. In today's digital world that we all are navigating, estate planning isn't just about physical assets. We also need to consider our digital presence, everything from social media accounts to cryptocurrency and online banking. In this episode, we'll discuss how to create a digital estate plan, why it's essential, and how to ensure your digital legacy is protected. Joining us today to discuss digital estate planning and managing online accounts is Jasmine Young from the Young Law Group. Shane, thanks again for joining us.
Hi, Angela. It's my pleasure.
Great. Well, I know, this is one of those topics, as we're talked about in a previous episode, there are more younger folks who are looking to get their estates in order. And many of them who grew up in the digital age, like it's all they didn't know about fax machines or cordless phones. They just know about online accounts. So I want to kind of get into this conversation and really probably edify me as well and understanding what exactly is the digital estate planning and why has it become so important?
Yeah. So when we talk about digital, I'd actually like to take a step back and just to emphasize the fact that your estate plan can also be digital, in and of itself. So like that whole process of putting an estate plan in place can be digital, can be virtual from start to finish. So that's another thing that has evolved that we talked about in the prior episode as far as the evolution of estate planning is, so much is different. It's not just receiving a binder of documents anymore. This can be completely digital from, the decision-making process to actually signing your documents electronically, and how we store or save securely, these plans digitally. So that's the first thing that's just really exciting about how things have changed, where, we are saving paper and we're able to do things in a much more streamlined manner. So when we talk about digital assets, as we know, an asset is something that you own, right? It's something that you have. So the first thing that we start with as far as our planning process is creating what's called a family wealth inventory. So that inventory is essentially, kind of like a spreadsheet, an itemized inventory of everything that you own, at least the major assets, from real estate to bank accounts to investment accounts to cryptocurrency, retirement accounts, life insurance, your vehicles, boats, RVs, your personal property, of course, which is kind of everything else that you might have in your home, like your jewelry, your furniture, appliances, electronics, and so forth. So we put together an inventory of those items. When we're talking about digital assets, that can include, the things that you mentioned. It can be crypto, Bitcoin, and those assets are held and treated differently than our traditional assets, like our stocks and bonds and, mutual funds that are held in our investment accounts. The digital assets like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin have posed a challenge for a lot of people. And unfortunately, because people are not planning properly and incorporating those types of digital assets or investments into their estate plan, we've seen assets lost where families don't have access because of how we access them during our lifetime. So a lot of these assets, as you know, require special PINs and codes, and it's very encrypted, and only you have access to those things. So I've never opened a cryptocurrency type of account or Bitcoin. The reason I haven't done that is because, I just have a fear around the unknown and I don't understand how it really works. So I'm like, I'm not going to invest money into that. But I have a lot of clients that do and that have. And so when we talk about making sure that these assets are properly included and incorporated into your estate plan, we say, all right, well, we want to identify which assets those are, which institutions, and how they're held, but then also how do you access them? And you may not want to provide that same level of access to your family members or loved ones during your lifetime. You might want to hold that until, you're no longer here. So that's also where your estate plan comes into play, and having that information secure, and safe, but accessible for when that time comes. So that's important when it comes to those assets, because otherwise they basically get locked up and then you can't, you don't get access to them. And that's what we've seen with traditional assets, unfortunately, for family members that don't know about certain assets, because they haven't been tracked properly. They're not in an inventory. And, you might forget about that old 401k that you had, or that IRA account, or that bank account, at that, small state credit union that you opened up years ago. And so the inventory, that's why the inventory is so important, because when we're not tracking and titling, these assets during our lifetime, something happens to us, those assets end up going to the state's unclaimed property department. And so, in Nevada alone, we have almost $1 billion of assets that are just sitting in our state's unclaimed property department. And the reason that happens is because typically someone passes away and their family members either don't know about the assets or they don't have access to those assets. So that's a tip for everyone, that's listening or watching, is to go and Google your state's unclaimed property department or any state in which you've lived in, any state that you've resided in, Google that state and unclaimed property department, and then you can go in and search under your name or under your family members' names, and the searches will generate, different hits basically that will be close to your name. So you want to look through those and see if the state is currently holding any accounts or assets that actually belong to you. So I try to do this every year because we've had accounts that we forgot about. We had like an escrow account that had $11,000 in it that we didn't know was just sitting there. So we've clients, also regain access to their assets. So that's another thing that we want to do like now while we are alive and we are aware, is go and make sure that we're tracking down any assets that we have so that we don't have to deal with a mess or even forget about assets, or lose these assets to the state or the state's unclaimed property department. So, just having that inventory is really important, whether they're digital assets or not. We want to make sure that we are identifying those assets there and then getting access to some of these digital assets like the crypto we talked about, but also social media, your online banking. That's another level of digital concern and considerations that we need to make sure are properly encompassed within your estate plan. Because if you do your banking online and something happens to you and now you can't access or you can't handle those affairs, you want to make sure that the person that you trust, that you've identified or designated in your estate plan, has access to be able to go and handle, the banking and other transactions, other financial affairs and transactions that you have. So being able to have those digital accounts, those credentials, passwords, account information stored securely, and digitally, if that's how you're accessing those accounts, is also important and part of a digital asset inventory that we recommend for all clients, because so much of what we do is handled online. And, if we're not able to handle those affairs for ourselves, our family members, our loved ones would be lost. They wouldn't know how to handle those things. So that's another important consideration. And then another thing that you mentioned was social media accounts. So this is something that we talked about earlier, where, these young adults that we serve as far as clients, they typically don't want mom and dad getting access to their DMs and their emails and, these other digital accounts, social media or otherwise. And so it's important that you, as an adult, identify who can access, what accounts and how they can access those accounts. There's also like legacy provisions and options that you can elect within, Facebook and so forth, so that you can have, certain people that basically get access immediately if something happens to you, that where they can jump in and continue to maintain those accounts. So, it's really important because, we live in a day and age now where so much of our lives are focused on social media and these other digital assets.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm thinking, password managers
Yes.
are so important,
Yes.
right? So, everyone, when you have to get these updates to your passwords and people are like, I can't think of another password. Well,
Yes.
get a password manager. And I would imagine as part of the estate planning process, like, how does that transaction happen? How do you, if you do have a password manager, how do you
Right.
make sure the person gets access to that?
Yeah. So when you have something like LastPass, for example, that's what we typically use. You basically just have to remember that one password. So like just make or at least have access to it. So you don't have to remember, a million different passwords. And, just making sure as part of your plan, we can have that saved somewhere, where that the person or the people that you've identified to be able to have legal authority or access, they would get that upon, your incapacity or after you've passed away, or if you're okay with someone having access to those digital accounts, during your lifetime, whether you're incapacitated or not, that's an option too. So it's, all part of the planning process where, we guide you through how to, make sure that you're setting those things up, and then how we can make sure that they are part of your plan and they're secure and the right people have access to them.
Yeah, and this can sound trivial, but it's so important. If you think about other generations, if you were going through your parents or an elder's belongings, most likely they had paper documentation of, any insurance policies they had or bills that they were paying or anything that was coming up. But now all of us have multiple online accounts. Many of us don't know some of the online accounts that we signed up for 6, 7 years ago that we may be still paying recurring payments on. And so
Subscriptions.
it's really important to do this inventory.
Right. Yeah. It's really one of the key things that we do for clients as part of our planning process is creating this family wealth inventory and the digital asset inventory because so much of our lives revolve around this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anything else we should consider when we think about the digital age that we're navigating and change that is to come?
Yeah, I think it's important that we make sure that we're utilizing the resources that we have available now. If you are one of those people that like only wants to do things digitally or virtually, there is a way to be able to do that. So don't let, the thought of, oh my gosh, I have to go and like sign a bunch of documents, don't let that keep you from putting an estate plan in place. Just know that there are options really for all different types of, clients, whether you're more old school or if you're, more in this digital age, and really just gathering the information that is pertinent to you as far as, your financial assets. The purpose of one of the purposes of the planning session that we've been talking about is to really get you as legally and financially organized as possible. That's really the first step, is making sure that we gather all of the information first. We're identifying that, and then we're putting it into the plan as it should be and as it can be updated as time goes on. So again, just first step is really just starting the process and gathering the information and not putting it off for another day, because we get busy, we get distracted. We're human. So while it's on your mind, take advantage and start the process now. And once we get the ball rolling, it's super easy. We do the heavy lifting. We're there to guide you and make it easy, digestible, and as streamlined as possible.
Hmm. Well, that is the perfect segue as we wrap up this 12-part series on estate planning and elder care with our 12th episode. Shane, thank you so much. You and Verlina have provided our listeners and viewers with such important content and context about estate planning and elder care. Before we wrap up, if you had to say over the course of this journey and as you were guiding your clients or talking to your children about the top 3 things that they should consider around estate planning and elder care, what guidance would you provide?
The top 3 things I would say that we need to be considering is really, one, what are the outcomes that you're looking for? Like what are the things that are important to you? If it is making sure that we avoid probate, typically that's one of the top priorities. If you're wanting to keep things private, avoid taxes, provide asset protection, like really get straight on what those priorities are and be thinking about these things and utilizing the resources that are accessible, like the on-demand webinar that we have on our website, younglawlive.com. That's available 24/7, and it's a great starting point to kind of start thinking about what these priorities are. And again, thank you, Angela, for, utilizing this platform and not just doing one episode as far, as your podcast, but doing such a comprehensive, 12-part series. It really is commendable that you've done this. And it's the first time that I've participated in a podcast of this magnitude. So I'm so impressed and thankful for the opportunity. The other things that I would recommend, as we are considering, embarking on this process and the planning journey, would be to have conversations, with your family members, especially as you start the process yourself. And maybe you're one of the younger ones that's kind of, like you're kind of leading the way for maybe the older generation, your parents, your grandparents, is have conversations with them and share about your experience. Encourage them to put planning in place for themselves, because if they don't, it's going to end up falling, on our lap. And so just, sharing the information, having the conversations is so important. And then of course, the third thing, once we do get into the planning process, is making sure that you are continuing to, work on it and have updates, have meetings with your estate planning attorney, have regular reviews, annual reviews. That's really important because so much can change over the course of a year. The laws change, our assets change, our lives change, pandemics happen. And so it's really important to check in and have that ongoing contact and communication with your lawyer and also your collateral professionals. We talked about financial advisors, tax advisors, that trifecta of planning, estate planning, tax planning, financial planning. They are all interrelated and all important. And we want to make sure that we can serve, in that kind of quarterbacking role as your lawyer to make sure that these things are properly collaborated for your planning.
Mm, that's fantastic. So know what your priorities are. Make sure you start having the conversation. We talked about in the previous episode, it could be over spaghetti at dinner. It could be in a car ride to the park. Just start having the conversation, ease into it, and then make sure that this is a dynamic process. It's not just one and done, but make sure that you are aware of any changes to your family or your current status, and make sure that you find an attorney or a firm that is going to make sure that they are navigating this journey with you, that it's not just one and done, it's not just transactional, but it's helping you throughout your journey in the process. And we found that in Shane, Jasmine Young, and the Young Law Group. Shane, so grateful to you for taking the time to sit with us and have these conversations, answer these questions, and provide such invaluable insights about the work that you do on a regular basis. And the thing that resonated with me and that really stands out is that this isn't just a job for you.
Mhm.
This is like a passion play.
Yeah.
Like you really care about the work that you do. You can tell you put a lot of time in making sure that you're up to date on everything that's taking place. And you can tell that for clients that you really care about making sure that they and their family are protected and that their assets are protected. And so it has been an honor having you on Unlocking the Club. So grateful for the time that you're spending with us and the insight that you're sharing.
Well, and thank you again. It really is my pleasure. It's my honor. And the timing couldn't be any more perfect for the podcast for this series because we're in this last quarter of the year. A lot of people are saying like, okay, it's on my list. It's been on my list of things to do. You've got your peers, your colleagues, your friends, your group of people that you can encourage to like, let's get this done. Like, let's make sure that we wrap up the year 2024 by taking care of these really important affairs, our legal affairs, our financial affairs. And as we head into the holidays, we'll be spending a lot more time also with our friends, our loved ones, our family members. So just another opportunity to have the conversations when you have everyone there together. So, take these opportunities to help each other and support each other. It's really just such a great opportunity that we all have. And I'm here to support in any way possible. And of course, have extended the complimentary planning session for anyone that's listening or watching the podcast, plus the
Nice.
discount.
Plus the discount. So here's what, folks, if you're listening to us at this particular moment, the challenge is on. I want to hear about the conversations that you're having at Thanksgiving coming up or your holiday parties. I want to find out about how you're getting your group of girlfriends or your family members together and talking to them about estate planning. I want to hear about the first phone call you make to the Young Law Group and take advantage of that free consultation. Like, make sure you share those stories with us on social media. I would love to hear it. Encourage everybody in your ecosystem. This is the important thing to do to make sure that you continue to protect your legacy. And Young Law Group is giving you a great way to get started with that free consultation. So again, encourage you to take advantage of it and get prepared. And let's make this a movement. We are doing this series because we know it's important. In polling so many of our colleagues, we found out that many of us don't have an estate plan in place. And many of us don't even think about it until some tragic event happens. And sometimes at that point, it may not be too late, but it's not as easy to navigate as it could be if you get out ahead of it. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to Unlocking the Club. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you got a lot out of it. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please share this with all your friends. Continue to listen to the episodes. And until next time in our next series, be well.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking the Club. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or your favorite streaming platform so that you can experience every episode. And follow us on social media, where you'll hear about future guests, access special features, and connect with this amazing community. Head on over there and let us know how you are unlocking the club. Until next time, peace.